So a lot of my non-writer friends and acquaintances will, like, when they see me, they're like, it's so cool that you're a writer. And it's like, is it? Is it cool? Is it really? I didn't leave the house last week. Is that still cool to you? I took like a month off from making videos, I think, and I feel great. It's been a good month, I'm not gonna lie. I got so much writing done. Yeah, I think this year it has been harder for me to make content and to feel excited to make content. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I want to talk about, loneliness as a writer. We're just gonna get a little existential today. Particularly with writing vlogs, it's been more difficult for me to make those videos as regularly, and it's not because I'm not writing, but it's more that social media has had more of a negative effect on me this year. It can be daunting to exist online in any capacity. I have a lot of writing goals this year, and I just know that I won't be able to achieve them if I am spending a significant portion of my time making content super regularly on this channel, and that's not an easy decision to make. It's easy in the sense that I've always prioritized my writing over everything in my life, which is another thing I'm going to talk about. I do enjoy making videos, and I do enjoy the community and the exposure that I've gotten to other writers. I've made really, really good friends through YouTube. I'm so grateful for that, and I'm so grateful for people who do watch my videos, who watch them regularly. I know that it's my channel growth has been particularly slow. This is going into my second year, I think, of making videos. Yeah, it's been a slow process, but I am grateful for the small community that I have fostered on this channel. So I'm not at all ungrateful and unappreciative. Anyways, long intro. I have been so in my own head recently, if you can't tell, because I basically dedicated the last month-ish to my writing. I think I just went 4 weeks not making any content other than filming a few vlog clips and stuff like that, but I was not editing. I kind of did a light social media detox, and I think in those 4 weeks I wrote something like 20 or 30,000 words, which is a lot for me. I don't usually write at that speed, but I was feeling so motivated. I was feeling good about what I was producing that month. I think genuinely some of my best writing has come out of these last 4 weeks. And I think there are a few different factors as to why I have felt so positively about my writing. Social media cleansing being one of them. But then also at the same time, there are a lot of reasons why I've felt not so positively, despite the fact that my writing has been good. And I think what it comes down to is that writing is a solitary pursuit. And when you're pursuing it seriously with the intention of publishing, everything else in your life tends to fall to the wayside, and writing becomes a top priority in your life because it has to. So what happens is you spend a lot of time by yourself, with only your own thoughts. That's a lot. I don't know if you guys ever get tired of being in your own head all the time, but I do. I do. I actually feel as much as introverted as I am, and as much as I do enjoy my own company, and I enjoy all the time that I spend by myself writing, being with yourself for so long can make you go crazy. I think also with writing, it's particularly difficult because on a day-to-day basis, your time and effort isn't necessarily rewarded immediately or rewarded tangibly. I think when you're writing, you might feel creatively and emotionally nourished for a period of time, but you won't be tangibly rewarded. You won't just write a really good chapter and it's okay, now you have a book deal. Like I said, I enjoy my own company. Like I've always really enjoyed just being with myself. I'm a hoot and a holler. I like my own thoughts. that's narcissistic. But also it is very human to constantly wonder about like what if, right? I think I was like talking with Kelly the last time we had met up, and she was saying how there was like one day after work where she didn't write, like she just like read for the whole evening or something like that. And she was like, is this what it feels like to not be a writer? Is this what it feels like to be a normal human being? Like you just like your downtime is your downtime, and you just like spend it enjoying yourself and not stressing over your draft. That was so relatable, because I feel like I think about this all the time. Like I don't have to be pursuing writing, but I choose to. And it's this really bizarre thing. For so little time in a day, I work a full-time job. I try to do YouTube somewhat regularly. I'm realizing now that I should cut back, otherwise I'll go crazy. And I'm also a writer pursuing traditional publishing. And sometimes I do wonder what my life would be like if I wasn't a writer. And it's difficult to kind of imagine that, because I've sort of been this way ever since I was a kid. But it does kind of leave you in this place where, now that I'm older, people my age, like, okay, so your 20s are such a weird time, specifically your mid-20s, because you have people who are like still in school, and then you also have people who are, what I mean, like when you look at like your peers, like people you went to school with when you were a kid, there are people who are like still in university. There are people who are like having their third kid. You know, like everyone is kind of like in vastly different stages in life. And sometimes like when I spend like 2 days without leaving the house and I've written, 15,000 words or something, you feel accomplished. Like creatively, I feel accomplished, but then you're also like, I didn't leave the house for 2 or 3 days. Am I like missing out on life? When you look at your peers and your contemporaries who are like going out all the time, who like every weekend they just like have something booked. And I know that I'll never be that kind of person, like even if I wasn't a writer, but it is the kind of thing that I think about. Like, should I just quit? Should I be taking writing so seriously to the point where it's like, I have had this crazy brain fog for the last like 4 weeks. Always like half my brain is always like constantly thinking about like the next scene that I have to write, or I'm thinking about like an idea for a character, or I'm not like fully living real life, because I'm always like, when I'm in the middle of drafting a book, which is like 95% of the year I'm drafting a book, there's always a part of me that's like halfway living inside of this fake world. I enjoy it. Like I wouldn't be a writer if I didn't enjoy that. But at the same time, it does leave me feeling with this strange sense of displacement. And I think there are so many aspects of writing that is romanticized. And I think it's good to romanticize your life. To a certain extent. I think on the outside, it seems much cooler than it does. And even with like my vlogs and stuff like that, I'm really appreciative when people tell me that watching my writing vlogs motivates them to write. Like that's really what I would hope my writing vlogs do. But it's also like, this is true for like any kind of social media thing. Your life can look so much more put together than it actually is. I never want people to think that I always have my shit together, because I don't. And, if you like really watch some of my vlogs, I'm like halfway losing my mind sometimes, and like not in the romantic mad genius way. Like I'm actually just like burnt out and tired and stuck. Just because I'm documenting my writing process doesn't mean that I have writing any more or less figured out than, another writer. And there's also one time where I was like, I think I was at convocation. I was like, talking to old university classmates. I had some of them be like, we were like talking, and they were like, oh, it's like, you're a writer, right? Like you're writing a book. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's so cool. I get a lot of my non-writer friends and acquaintances will, like, when they see me, they're like, it's so cool that you're a writer. And it's like, is it? Is it cool? Is it really? I didn't leave the house last week. Is that still cool to you? It's funny to me when especially non-writers think that like, oh, that writing thing that you're doing is so cool, because it's a compliment, but it's also like, I don't think people realize how much of writing a book is just staring at the wall. Yeah, it's like writing is so solitary. It's so lonely. Like 90% of it is so lonely. And the other 10% is like this, where I'm like talking to a camera about my stories, or I'm talking to a friend. And that's like such a struggle. I think it's also a reason why so many people like fall off from writing, or it's like difficult for them to focus, or you know, I've like had conversations with people both online and in real life, like people who are like, I would like to do more writing, but I just can't find the time, or I can't get into it, or you know, like I always, you know, quit the project. And I think most writers are like that, because it is not normal to want to spend like even 10 hours a week just completely by yourself staring at a screen. I've already sacrificed so much of like social outings and stuff like that to my writing. You know, I enjoy talking about my writing in this way, and I enjoy connecting with people. And I realized that having to like cut back on like making content would make writing feel even more solitary, because I'm not as often grabbing a camera and like vlogging my writing, because I just can't, you know, produce videos at the same speed that I used to. Overcoming the loneliness of writing, the primary thing has been learning to connect with other writers and having the opportunity to connect with other writers. If I didn't have people in my life who I could talk to my writing about, I'm not 100% sure that I would still be writing. And if I was, I don't think I would be writing as seriously as I am right now. A lot of what has made me abandon projects is motivation, and a lot of what affects my motivation is when I get stuck on a draft, or when I don't think that the idea is good anymore. Has helped me get through that is when I'm able to like talk about my stories, and just like having an external person in your life who's also a writer kind of validate your ideas, and to brainstorm your ideas with you, and to just like help you look at your story in a different way. Like if I didn't have that, I think I would have like quit writing a long time ago. How do other writers kind of overcome that loneliness? Because I know like the obvious answer is just like meet other writers. I acknowledge that that's not something that every person kind of has access to. And I think one thing that I've definitely taken for granted is the fact that I do have these people in my actual life to kind of lean on. Yeah, I think I've taken for granted the fact that I always have, like in my brother and in a lot of my close friends, I've always had the ability to just like talk about my stories with people that I trust. And I know I've mentioned it in my vlogs as well, but a lot of the current book that I'm writing right now, which is an adult cyberpunk novel, a lot of the ideas in that book, they were born from hours and hours and hours of conversations that I had with my brother about cyberpunk as a genre, about the state of the world, about, you know, some of the interesting and nightmarish relationships between capitalism and technology. I don't think I would be half the writer that I am if it weren't for those opportunities to like bounce ideas off other people, because sometimes I feel so limited in what my single brain can produce that I feel like my stories have become so much richer by being exposed to other writers' viewpoints on stories and on craft and on genre. One thing that I was thinking about a lot, especially after I went to this author event with Kelly, and R.F. Kuang and Vaishnavi Patel were in town, and they were talking about academia and fiction. And Kelly and I went to their discussion panel events. They talked, oh my God, honestly, like I wish I could have like taken notes or something, but I wanted to like really focus when I was there. But one thing among so many things that I was thinking about a lot while I was listening to them was just the depth of research and thought that goes into how much they like fermented their ideas, you know, like they these are not writers who are just writing their stories haphazardly. There is so much thought and care that goes into every aspect from the world and the characters. It made me feel valid in my decision to write less stories and less books, but to write my stories and books more slowly, but for the ideas to feel a lot richer, if that makes sense. I have always been the kind of writer that likes to write slowly and to write with intention and taking the time to really like peel back every single layer and to think deeply about all those layers. But it does mean that I really only average finishing like one manuscript a year. And usually I don't finish more than like 2 short stories, maybe 3 in a year. You know, I used to feel really bad about only being able to like write 10 to 15,000 words a month. And it's because I'm only tracking word count, and I'm not tracking, you know, all of the other stuff that goes into fermenting the idea, you know, reading books in that genre and reading and finding like supplementary reading to help with world building and research and all that kind of stuff. That takes so much time out of the writing process, out of your day. Like there are some days where I feel bad because I didn't write anything new. But the reason that I didn't write anything new that day was because I was doing research. And it's one of those things that doesn't have like an immediate tangible reward. Sometimes months and months later when I'm actually writing the relevant scene that information is required for. But anyway, that research process can also feel really, really lonely, especially when you're like hyper fixated on just like the most random thing ever. Oh my God, I was researching the other day jazz standards. I was also doing a lot of research into music theory, and it's like, it's not because I'm writing a book about music, but there's like one scene where I was like trying to write a single metaphor. Like 2 hours later, I'm like neck deep in music theory that is like beyond my 7 years of piano education from 10 years ago. That's like the glorious part of writing, but it's also the incredibly insane part of writing. Yeah, so the reason I brought up writing slower, writing with more intention, and really steeping myself in my ideas is because I think that those things at the end of the day, even if it's frustrating some days when my process feels very slow, I think in the long run, and especially what I've learned from this month, I know that I'm going to thank myself later for putting in all of that thought, because instead of being impatient, you know, my future self will thank me for taking the time to think more deeply about the story. Truly, like this last month of writing where I just like produced like 30,000 words, I felt so high off of own happiness and excitement about this story. And I think that's what really fueled me to write as much as I did. The other reason that I don't want to be so impatient in my writing process is because I want to make sure every time I go into writing a book, because it is not easy to write a book, as we all know. And so I never want to go into my book ideas unless I am 100, 200, 1000% sure that I am so in love with the idea that being able to write out those scenes is going to make me high with happiness. Like if I don't feel like I'm a literal god and I am like floating in the clouds when I am writing out these scenes, then there is like no point for me to pursue that idea, because we deserve to chase the ideas that make us excited. I think that's one of the things that really helps, you know, mitigate that loneliness, other than obviously talking with other writers. Find excitement in the very idea itself, and to find fulfillment in the process of like getting to the root of why you're telling the story, getting to the purpose of the story. And when I think about all the story ideas that I have abandoned, realize at some point down the line that I'm just not passionate about the idea as much as I thought I was. Every time that I'm struck with this feeling of like, maybe I should just be a normal person. Whenever I have those kinds of days, I always try to slow down and find new ways for my writing to excite me. This is what I want to do, and I don't think I've felt as passionately about anything in my life as I have about writing. And I've resigned myself to that fate. Craft means different things to different writers. And knowing what your tastes are and knowing what makes you excited is a very important part about being a writer, because not every story is right for you as a writer. Like, I am never probably ever gonna write a like Sally Rooney normal people kind of book. It's not because I don't enjoy those kinds of books as a reader. I do. I have read at least 2 Sally Rooney books. And I used to read a lot of literary, way more than I read genre fiction. But I will never be that kind of writer. That's not what gets me excited about writing. Understanding what craft means to you as a writer, I think is essential to staying consistent and to growing as in your own skill and in your own journey. My goal as a writer and what craft means to me, I go into pretty much 99% of my stories knowing that what I want to write is intimate, character-driven stories that toe the line between speculative and literary and strive to deconstruct some level of social commentary through its themes. That is not how all writers see craft. Some writers, I want to make the coolest magic system you've ever seen, and like that's what gets them excited about writing. That's valid. There is no one definition of like what the purpose of a story is, and I think that's the beautiful part about writing. Whatever you think is like your purpose as a writer, that's what you should strive for. I don't really have like a a satisfying conclusion to this video or whatever. I just wanted to talk about loneliness as a writer because I think we all struggle with it. I think writing is truly a hobby for insane people, but we all do it anyway. So here we are. At the same time, I was thinking about, if I wasn't a writer, what would my passion be? Like, because, you know, we are the masters of our own destiny or whatever. So if I wanted to quit writing and do something else, surely I could. But I choose not to. And it's really because I don't know what else I would be doing. I don't know. I feel like as I've gotten older, my ideas have just gotten more and more depth to them. The prospect of being like 40 years old or something, I just know that like whatever story ideas I have when I'm 40, they're going to be crazy. The story ideas I'm going to have when I'm 60, they're going to be crazy. If I could have a new passion, I don't know what else I would have. That's really all I had to say for this video. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for chilling with me. Let me know if there's like videos you guys want to see. I'm kind of like stagnating right now. I will still be vlogging, just not as often. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video, and I hope all of your writing projects are going well.